flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have minutes from May 14 that need to be approved. Anybody find any errors or corrections, or is there a motion?
Lynn moved it.
Lynn moved it, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Good to me, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Joan. Virgin's Partnership, you're here for a quarterly report of activity, and I think you just have a preliminary budget that you handed out to let us look at for the upcoming budget session. So
Sure.
Kara, you're up.
I'll start, and then I'm gonna go over some of our activities over the last quarter, and then I'm gonna hand it over to Kevin, who's gonna go over our financial information. In the packet, I gave you our quarterly report that listed some of our activities over the last quarter. I'll highlight some of those. I gave you in the packet one of these pieces of paper that was the reinvestment numbers. It's an interesting thing. It shows, this is one of the things we're mandated, being a designated downtown, we are obligated to report our investment numbers in the downtown to the state of Vermont. We pass them on to Leanne, who's the director of the downtown program, who shares them with the state. Mel and I worked on this right after the new year. It is kind of an estimate. It's not, don't hold us to these numbers. They are estimates. But it just kind of goes and shows, the number of jobs brought into Virgins, jobs lost, money that was invested in the downtown, both through capital improvements or private and public funding. One of the other highlights for this last quarter is that Mel and I worked together to write the Downtown Improvement Grant, which you guys heard about. Mel tells me I'm 1 for 1, so in grant writing, that's always a good thing when you get the first one you've written under your belt. It's a good thing. I attended the downtown networking meetings. The last one was in Montpelier. Those are also required as part of our designated downtowns. We have to have a representative from Virgins. It doesn't have to be myself. It could be one of the business owners. It could be a council member. But we're required to attend 3 out of, they do roughly 5 a year. And if we don't, we can have our downtown designation revoked if we don't attend those, at least 3 of those. We held a St. Patrick's Day event that brought people into downtown. We did a coin hunt in the park. We did a big advertisement with one credit union. This was the actual ad that was in the Addison. It ran for 2 weeks. One credit union paid for half of it, and the partnership paid for the other half. And it was a promotion for our Virgins Green program. We placed an ad in Destination Vermont. This is their summer program. This is the actual ad, the way it's going to look in their sheet. The Virgins Partnership logo is down here in the corner, so I worked to do that. We've been holding in the month of May a trivia contest on our Virgins Partnership page to bring awareness to our page, to get new likes. We've been giving $10 worth of Virgins Green away every week to people that comment on the post. And we've actually had, I think, about 50 new likes in the month of May. And it's actually really fun to look at some of the little pictures. People are really getting, they're commenting a lot on them. We had a discussion because I placed the Baptist church that burned down on the wrong corner, so I got corrected by about 15 different people. So that was fun.
And there's a new one that came out today, or yesterday, or something.
Yeah, today I posted one.
Yeah.
There was a trivia question on there today.
I researched it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to look at the old pictures and see what they are and then try to place them in town.
I can't answer them because I'd get 100.
Right. You know what? I had to veto Jackson Evans from answering them too because he kept trying to
Oh,
post
really?
on there. And I'm
That's
like,
funny.
all right, Jackson, you got to stop because every time he knew all the answers. And then the other thing I wanted to talk, so that's kind of my report. Is there any questions, comments? So we've done a lot. I would like to, Joe and I talked a little bit about, as I'm talking about Facebook, about maybe starting up some sort of City of Virgins Facebook page. And that's something I'd like the council to go. I'm happy to get it started. You can make multiple administrators on a page if you're familiar with how, I'm sorry, I just bumped you. With how Facebook works. I talk with my hands, it's the French Canadian. How Facebook works, you can have multiple administrators. So I could make, Joe or Lynn or whoever's on Facebook regularly or Joan administrators, they can monitor it, post things on it, take things off. But it's a good, in this day and age when everybody wants to know things right away. Joe was talking about the sewer, when the truck hit the sewer line and they were asking people to conserve water for a little while. You know, Joe had put it on Front Porch Forum. Well, Front Porch Forum, sometimes it's 12 hours or 24 hours before
They
that
post
information
it.
is emailed out to people,
Yeah.
where Facebook, it's immediate.
Yeah,
So I would let the council consider, you know, a Virgin's, City of Virgin's sponsored Facebook page where that information can get out there.
I think it'd be a pretty easy thing to do. I mean, do we need a official proposal? I think we should just, I'll work with you on it.
I think it makes sense. I mean, if, you know, if whether it's an emergency or whether it's just an announcement of some sort.
Or even, you know, my thought was
taxes and
just,
sewer are due.
There you go.
yeah, or just, somebody sees a pretty picture of the falls, the rainbow over it or something,
Yeah.
and post a
Post
picture of
it
it,
up.
you know? And there's,
Yeah.
I got sons that live in the other side of the country, they'd love to keep up.
And Middlebury has one, and Bristol has one, so this, you know, most of the other towns have them, so I think it would be a good thing for Jens. I'm happy to set it up, I can make whoever wants to be administrators, it's, you know, it's simple to set
I'd
up,
be
so.
happy to work with you on it and,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's try it, you know, if it doesn't work or there's a problem, we
You
take it
can
down.
take
It's
it
that
down.
simple, so.
Yeah. All right, and then my last thing before I wanted to thank Bill for working with me to organize the community forum that we had last week. I thought we had a huge turnout. We had about 40, I think Mike counted twice. We had 47.
47.
Yeah,
47
that's what I counted too, and that's what I counted. So that's good.
So I thought that was a great turnout. People were really positive about downtown improvements and recreation. And I think we should have more of them in Virgins. I think it's a great way to get people involved in the community, let them know what's going on, hear their feedback. So I really enjoyed it. So thank you for working with me, Bill, to organize that. I thought it went really well. So, any other questions for me? All right, good.
Anybody have questions? It's good to me.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll go to the-
Okay.
I think Sarah handed out a little budget operating statement report. It wouldn't be in the package you got, she just handed it out tonight, I think. Basically just giving a snapshot of where we are as of the end of May, with a little projection through June. Pretty much right on budget, I don't think we were off by too much. But what you probably are aware of is that last year's budget included carryover about $8,300 of unspent funds from previous years, and that helped us get through the current fiscal year. So what we're looking at for next fiscal year is not only a shortfall for that amount, but also, as you're probably well aware, that Tara's no longer working the 20 hours for the Virgins Opera House. So the other half of her week is now no longer producing income for her. So the 20 hours she's working for us isn't necessarily enough. So if we don't do something, we may actually lose her because she may actually go find full-time work somewhere else. So what I've actually put in here for budget of next year is to either keep her at 20 hours or increase it to 30 hours to actually take on some of the other work that we could have reduced and she's available. But also, if we don't go to 30 hours or if we don't, are unable to, then the 20 hours at the rate she's currently making is just isn't enough either. So even to keep her at 20 hours, we should really think about increasing her rate. So that's what the administrative service line item in the executive, in the budget for June 2014. I've got two different columns there, one with her at 20 hours a week, as she currently is, but with an increase in the hourly rate. And then also a 30-hour a week, and what that would mean in terms of, and that's grossed up for payroll taxes, but that's about it, no benefits, just payroll taxes, and employer taxes. And then I also added, because we'd be moving her into as an employee of the organization, some funds to help with the accounting and payroll reporting administration. The other piece of this, as you can see at the top, where we're coming up with additional income, is that we ended up raising a little bit more than we thought we would last year in terms of membership funds. But in talking with Mel and some other folks, we had a little bit of an emergency meeting back when we learned that the Opera House was going to be letting her go. We were kind of brainstorming some ideas about how we could raise some additional income, and a bunch of different ideas were brought up, potentially trying to raise some additional tax revenue from a special district type of assessment to maybe a 1% sales tax for Virgins, to a bunch of other ideas. But in lieu of that, we thought maybe we would just try and do a specific business pledge drive of some sort. We'd go out face to face, meet with some of the larger employers in Virgins, in the greater Virgins area. Not just necessarily downtown Virgins, but also within the Virgins boundary, including Shaw's and DR Power and Nathaniel Electronics and some of the larger ones. But then also go door to door with some of the major businesses on Main Street and Green Street, just see if we can actually drum up some additional pledge money. And that's where I come up with another line item here, in this particular budget. And it's just an estimate, it's just an idea. Obviously, it's just kind of based on the size of the employer and what they get out of being in Virgins, and based on the number of employees they may have, just trying to come up with just a rough estimate of what we could potentially get. It's also based on some of my discussions from prior contributions they've made to the Opera House and to the partnership way back when, many years ago. So as you can see, the budget at 20 hours and 30 hours, total expenses, and the rest of the operating expenses are just kind of a carry forward of what we've already estimated and kind of running at this year and last year, is about $27,000 to $28,000 with her at 20 hours a week, and then at almost $40,000 if you had her at 30 hours a week. And even then, with the projected income, it runs this first year at a loss, just enough with what we'd expect to have reserved at the end of the year based on where we're at today. The other option, which is the last column, is an idea that's been kind of thrown out there over the course of the last couple of years, and now it's kind of coming more to a head as we've kind of looked back the last few years and kind of noticed that this position has been kind of too much in flux, in and out with the board membership and motivations, and looking to potentially create a position that's more stable, part of the city budget, maybe underneath the direction of the city manager, so it's more of an economic development type position / liaison to the partnership. And you actually would take the position and kind of make it into a city position. And that last column was basically making the assumption that the city would take on a position like that, and the partnership would focus more on just fundraising monies for various events we put on, the various committees that we have, and activities that the partnership's trying to push forward on outside of the actual payroll for the executive director position. So with that, I don't know if there's any questions or just want to understand some of the numbers, where they came from, or some of the assumptions put in here. But it's basically this first kind of go around is just kind of throw some ideas at you. We just kind of brainstormed this, the final details of this over the weekend, the last few days, and so it's a work in progress. But want to get some figures out to you guys, because I know you guys are trying to think about the budget for next year, but also kind of make you aware of the quandary we're in with what's going on with the part-time position she had with the Opera House, and how that actually worked out pretty well, because she was already there, heavily involved with the community events going on at the Opera House, kind of shared resources with computers and membership lists and things like that. So I'll just open up to questions if anybody has any questions.
Kevin, do you know what at the budget 2014, is that an increase in the hourly wage for Tara?
Yeah.
From what to what?
I think she's now, well, we were actually paying the Opera House
Right.
for an hourly rate based on a grossed up rate for her, but she was getting paid 14 and we were being charged 16 something, 25, 75 or something like that.
1561 or something.
But, so it was like $627 every 2 weeks or something like that we were getting billed. So I, based on 20 hours a week and the potential that she wouldn't be making as much if she just went to 20 hours a week. And if we brought somebody else in at part-time at $20, at 20 hours a week, is that something that someone can actually live off, or is a secondary source of income? With the reality situation, also just the reality of the rate she's making, $14 an hour for a position like this. Personally, I think is a little bit low, but.
So what's the new number?
Oh, sorry, $20 an hour.
Okay,
Put
that's
it
what
up.
I was looking for.
And that again is, that's just a number I threw out there. I just trying to make it a more of a number on an annual basis. That's something someone would be interested in doing, as opposed to putting all this much effort and being motivated on something substantially less that they can't necessarily live off of or want to live off of.
Okay.
Can you tell me how many memberships the May 3626 actually represents?
How many people have actually become members?
Yes.
20 probably roughly. I have a membership list at the upper, on my computer, but roughly 20. And it's a mix of business owners and individual donors.
Did you estimate about 1,000 or so that was coming out for businesses?
I don't know off the top of my head right now. It's definitely more business sponsorship than it is individual sponsorship. That's that 3,600.
That drive we did and the results of it were basically a letter that went out. I don't know if you received one. I think that went out to as many people as we could get out based on our own, an old membership list, but also kind of taking advantage of some other membership lists. But it was one drive, one letter, sent out I think twice at the end of last year. And really we could probably be sending out more and doing more. And that's kind of where I came up with the business property owners contribution drive initiative, that we were going, meeting with businesses, talking about, what the benefit of the partnership is and how it could help their particular business, how it improves the vitality for gens in general. We might be a lot more successful in getting more contributions from business and property owners on top of sending out additional requests for membership contributions.
Now, I'm not sure how many of the board know what discussion's been taking place out there. I know that Leanne has sent some emails and I was copied some. Mel,
I put Leanne's.
are they in the packet? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some discussion about the organizational structure of the partnership, whether it should remain a standalone organization, whether it should be more closely aligned with, the municipality, in which case, whether it's full-time or part-time or whatever. And I think that, that's almost a critical question, because you need to answer that question before you get to the point where you can put a budget together. And I don't know, I talked to you, Tara, a week ago. You guys had a meeting? When's your next meeting? Where you at? We need to have a budget in a month. So I'm just wondering if, is there a plan to kind of put together a consensus?
No, well, yes and no. I'm not really sure, and I think you've all read Leanne's email. It's not a quick, easy decision to make, and I'm not even really sure we could make it in a month.
Well,
But
that's kind of what I'm asking. I don't know where you're
so
at,
what I was just throwing out here was, okay, if we don't go down that road right now, it's a possibility that we could, but reality is we've only got maybe a month to figure that out, and there's a lot of potential agreements that need to be put together, and everybody be on board with it, and it's fairly controversial type of concept.
I would say the partnership board itself is probably split 50-50, close to it right now. And with more of them leaning towards, It's 50-50 split, whether they, based on Leanne's pros and cons list, because it's some serious discussion, and you'd have to have a real clear agreement between the partnership and the city if you were going to have a city position. So there are some concerns with some of the people in the partnership, that the partnership itself would lose its voice if they didn't have an executive director, and Leanne kind of lays that out in her pros and cons list. Leanne also has said that if the city decides to go that route, that she would want to be involved in order for us to maintain our designated downtown. She would want to be involved in actually helping the city and the partnership draft that agreement.
And I think that's appropriate, but if you started looking at the city allocation of it going from 9,000 to 15 to 27, obviously, the city's funding 80 or 90% of it, then there should be a lot of control over it at that point.
Right, and so I think the partnership would be supportive, the membership would be, the members of the partnership would be supportive, the board would be supportive of the city taking over the position if we had an agreement. That's the consensus I get.
But I think, time's of the essence, and it probably is not gonna happen this year. I don't think we have the time, or you have the time to do it.
Well, that's kind of my point, but the other thing is, we're not even sure you guys even have any.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to even talk about it.
So if you guys just spend a lot of time and effort on it, and find out that the majority of the council doesn't even want to even think about it, then there's no point in going down that path, so.
Okay.
This was just throwing out the idea. That was why I think we circulated the email from Leanne, just so everybody kind of had a sense of the issues. And those issues are all based off her experience with, like, I think at least 3 or 4 different organizations, downtown organizations in their struggles with funding and organization and funding and all that, so.
Okay. Anybody have questions of Kara or Kevin? I mean, we're gonna, I'm assuming, Mel, that during budget sessions, we've gotta deal with the library, we've gotta deal with a lot of these, the groups that we've had before us, and that's when a lot of the tough decisions are gonna be discussed and made. And there's not much we can do tonight, other than listen and go back and think about it and decide, how we wanna proceed. Is that correct, or?
Yeah, I mean, just so that there's no surprise, I have not put anything in the general operating budget
Proposed.
in my proposed, with a small p, my proposed budget, there is not an allocation. I will tell you that I thought quite a bit about having a partnership allocation the way that was done in the past. I still continue to feel that the downtown does not only benefit downtown property owners and downtown businesses. I've always said that. And therefore, the concept of the city sharing in whatever cost it is makes sense, because I think that certainly downtown property owners and businesses benefit, but I think the entire city benefits from the work of the partnership. Now, having said that, as Bill indicates, when you start talking about 80%, 85%, 90%, then that doesn't seem quite fair to me, all right? That it's like
without control of some sort.
Yeah. So so anyway, I didn't put anything. I didn't put anything in our budget, but it is important to me that we maintain our downtown designation number 1. Because it's the only way that we have access to the downtown transportation fund, all right? And also property owners, it's the only way that property owners in their downtown have access to the tax credit program, all right? So, that's one of the, if you lose your downtown designation, you lose access to that money. So that part is important. But I do wish that the revenue stream was, when I say at a minimum, equal, meaning that I would prefer that the city's contribution be either at 50% or below, and leave the organization in its current state of having a board with its work plan and its effort. Now, if that doesn't work, If it's not working, then I think, then the onus comes back to back on the city, because if the city doesn't do anything, then I can tell you, we will lose our designation. All right, so, I'm concerned about that.
Is it fair to say, Mel, that if we lose that designation, that the funds for any kind of projects that you're currently funding with that grant money would have to come from taxpayers? Or not be done at all?
Certainly, well, you know, I almost want to, because most of the projects that have occurred in the downtown have had handicap accessibility components to them, which are, you know, really benefit that property owner. There's been this formula of grant, city, property owner share. And if you know, if the city's faced with having to fund all that, I would think that any of those kinds of projects would come to a screeching halt. That's what I would think.
Yeah, I would too.
Because instead of the city paying 25 cents on a dollar, if you will, having to pay 100 cents on a dollar, I mean.
Or 75%, if the property owner still was able to contribute, you know, a quarter of it, but, okay. Any questions, Lynn?
I think the only other question I have is, I'm concerned, my concern is that most of the revenue should be coming from memberships. And it doesn't appear that there was any membership drive in 2012, or the number's missing. And that only 20 people, I would think just Main Street alone would have more than 20 memberships. So my question is, or not even a question, just a statement, is until you can see that memberships are going to carry this program, or at least sustain some of it, I'm not sure that there's no plan for that I see from here. That would be my concern. And I was on the board a long time ago, and we had a membership drive twice a year. So I'm not quite sure where that's gotten dropped. And I don't understand why it's gotten dropped. No, I know. That was my comment.
Well, I think, Lynn, that the partnership, and this was even before my time, in the last couple of years, came to pretty much a screeching halt, and at one point came real close to losing its designation just from a lack of participation, board members, anything. And that's going back even before, I think, the year that I show on there.
Yeah, I think it was, yep.
And the year that I show on there is the year it started kind of coming back, and we started doing more things. But before you can, this was the board's opinion, was before you can go out and bring back a membership drive and try and start asking folks for money for an organization they know nothing about, and it's not doing anything, and it got recognized in the paper as being close to being defunct. You got to come up with something to do, something to show that there's a reason to give. And so we spent a good deal of time trying to drum up interest, trying to get a board together, trying to get an executive director to come on board and do some things, and that's when we got Bev on board as a volunteer. But even then, she had a very difficult time trying to do that work as a volunteer and still maintain her own consulting business, which is the same thing I was doing. So it's kind of a combination of things, and just in this last year or so, we actually started doing enough and getting a web page and promoting ourselves and doing the Virginia's Green, kind of showing there's something there of an organization to be able to turn around and start asking for money. And that's when we said, all right, well, now that we're going to ask for money, what are we going to ask them for and why? What is the... So we had to come up with a game plan and something to promote it, and then finally, at the end of last year, we finally came up with something to send out. And I agree with you, we probably should do another one. We should have done another one before now. But most of that is basically our board has started to dwindle a little bit, and basically Tara, because she's been on payroll and for 20 hours working for us, she's actually been doing the bulk of the work. Myself as a president kind of got asked to kind of take over when Bill left, and I actually wasn't even in a position to be able to take over the role, and I've just been kind of doing it as best I can, but not to the extent it should be, because I've just been too busy at work. So it's kind of a combination of things, and it almost kind of makes you think, well, maybe there's got to be another alternative, because in the last few years, we've done a lot of work and got things moving forward, but there still seems to be an issue getting an active board, folks to participate. You have these forums, and a bunch of people come out. We had a forum late last fall, and it was pretty well attended, and we got some new blood into the partnership from there, but it was like 5 or 6 people. And they all come and they sound excited, but then when it comes to membership drive, no one donates. And I guess Sarah can speak to this, that the sponsorships from businesses have just dropped dramatically with the crash in the last few years, and it's tough to get businesses to contribute, so.
And it was the goal, and it still is, to do a summertime membership drive and a late fall membership drive. So there is a plan to do one in July when business is a little more booming in Virgins. When I was talking to some of the business owners, and we sent out our first mailing, you know, most people, when they do their individual giving, think about it in November and December, but that's not a good time really for our businesses to give money. Our businesses are doing business in July. That's when we have a tourist season here, and that's when, you know, people on Main Street actually can pay those bills. So that is the plan, is to do 2 membership drives, and the next one will be, I had just started my position with the partnership last year, and it was the end of June when I got hired on. So there was no turnaround to do it, and there had been probably a 5-month period of time where there really wasn't anybody in that executive direction. So yes, 2 membership drive, it is important. I think it is important to hit different pockets of money.
Just so happens it doesn't fall in our fiscal period, that's all.
Joe, how about you, any questions?
No, right now, no.
Vicky, how about you?
Not right now until I hear more.
Okay.
Bill, just one addition, somebody mentioned something about fiscal year. Obviously, for the past few years, there was $5,000 allocated from the general fund.
In the general fund,
In the
right.
general fund that was paid to the partnership. And it was last year, the council took that out of the general fund, took that line item out of the general fund, yet allocated $9,000 from the water tower fund to the partnership. I was trying to quickly read the fund, you know, whether or not there was anything in here about fund balance and process for the water tower fund, but the water tower has no fiscal year.
Correct.
It's not like the city council takes a look at the revenue that it earned for the prior, but you will have to look at that because of the 25% set aside. But it's not as though, you know, we go back and look at it and figure out what we're going to do with it. It has no fiscal year. So the point is, you know, and I'm trying not to use tone in my voice here, because I'm not trying necessarily to propose anything. But if folks feel that there really should be some relationship between what the city funds, regardless of the source, whether it's the general fund or the water tower fund, it's really about which pocket you're grabbing from. That ratio, if you will, with the amount of money received from members and businesses and whatever. And I guess, you know, I guess in the form of a question, would the council feel better about this if it had more information following a successful fund drive to figure out what its allocation might be?
So what you're implying is, since the water tower fund does not have a fiscal year, that, let's say that there was a fundraiser that kicked off in June, which is right around the corner, actually.
Right.
That if you were to raise $3,000 or $5,000 by July or August, we could then fund them to the degree that we felt, you know, we wanted to, through the water tower fund, and not worry about the budget. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, and I can tell you, I mean, I didn't have hard feelings about Rennie's motion to take $5,000 out of the general fund budget and take it out of the water tower fund. I didn't put anything in the budget, but I have as I've said before, I have no problem
Yeah.
using general fund dollars for this effort. It's really about how much to me, okay?
Yeah.
So that what I was kind of wondering about was, as we take a look at our general fund budget, considerations for putting 5,000 or putting something in there, knowing that the discussion's not over, relative to any other, an allocation from the tower fund, because.
Well, I mean, there could be an allocation from each fund. There could be a
Correct.
general fund amount, and there could be a tower fund that could supplement it.
Exactly, but this one, by June 30, the
That has to
general
be
fund,
set.
that's it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and you understand that? Kevin?
Can I just add that, just from the perspective of someone whose job is kind of on the line, because at the end of June, the fiscal budget for the partnership rolls over to a new one, and I think hopefully we've got some reserves to at least keep her through a month or two. But I think, maybe misunderstood, but I think the Opera House is no longer gonna actually contract any longer with us. So we have to convert her to a payroll position, I think, on July 1st, is that correct? So our cost will increase, so that $3,000, I'm not quite sure where it's gonna take us, but it may take us into a period of time where you guys would have a chance to see what we've got for fundraising, what we need. You know, if you were to make a decision to do something after you've already decided the budget, to pull funds from the water tower fund. I just want to point that out.
Yep, okay. Randy, how about you? Comments, questions?
Concerns? From the sounds of it, you've only been able to generate $3,600, but the total cost of having a 30-hour position is over almost 40,000. You know, and my comfort level, and this is just my comfort level, is that you would have to raise half for us to kick in at a 50, saying a 50%, half or more. And I don't know if, I'm not saying you can't do it, but the likelihood of you doing it is pretty slim.
I think we need to think about it, talk about it, and, you know, we're starting budget hearings next week.
Right.
Yeah, so, and I think that, I mean, you mean, Terry, you've got people you're gonna talk to, Kevin, you too, I mean, if there's anything else that we need to understand or talk about, I think we have to, you know, we'll do that in the next few weeks, and just try and, you know, figure this out, I guess.
I think we're going to try and have another partnership meeting here in the next week.
Okay.
We typically have one at the beginning of every month.
Okay.
So we're trying to get as much folks to that meeting as possible to kind of brainstorm and make sure we've got at least enough on the board there to get a good sense of where we want to go with it, one
Okay.
way or the other. But again, you know, if the council has no desire to make this a city position, we've got to move on and think about the realities of that, and how we're going to fund things.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for coming. Citizens' comments, none. Taxi license, Nicole Valaket. Do we know anything about Nicole?
She's Nicole Roberts. She grew up here in Virgins.
Okay.
John
You know
Roberts.
her? Okay, I know.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
John
her,
Roberts, all right.
his daughter, one of his daughters.
Now, is she a separate entity, or is she?
Nope, she's
gonna be
working-
working for Little City?
Yep,
So
and
just
she's
adding a driver to
insured,
that
right.
company, okay.
And, yeah, we have the insurance through Small City, and it shows her as a listed driver.
Okay,
But each driver is licensed individually.
right,
So that's her application.
It's not a company license, it's a driver.
Right.
it's a
Right.
right.
Driver license.
And yeah, it does say on there, the police ran a check and, you know, nothing scary.
It's in that group. No, this one here.
Does anybody have any questions? Is there a motion to?
I make said motion to grant Nicole her taxi license.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Lighting of the Falls, Mike. Mike talked to Mel and sent a letter to Mel requesting, I don't know if it's, well, maybe permission to raise money to light the falls like we've done for 2 or 3 years?
We did it last year successfully, we did it, then we took a year off, and then we did it a couple years, 3 years before that.
Is that what it was? Okay.
And it was intermittent, but we found a company that can really do a ace of a job.
So this is the letter Mike sent, well, he shared it with Mel and I. It was intended to go out to business owners or property owners, because the intention was to try and raise the money privately to do a very similar light show that was done last year. And if I remember, I think the total was $1,800.
Not quite 19.
Okay, so just under 2,000, and your intention was to try and raise some more so that there could be a banner or some recognition of those donors that donated the money.
Yes.
So Mel and I talked about this, and I think that the falls are one of our greatest assets, and we talked about, you know, could we do it permanently, potentially? Because at $2,000 a pop, or surely, you know, just under that, if private enterprise wants to pay for it, that's wonderful. Or do we want to form a partnership with private enterprise in the city and put up some lights that could be used year-round for 3 or 4 months in the summer and potentially over the holidays? It's easy to do that with a, you know, a standard single color light. It's not easy to do with the light show, with the mixing of colors and so on and so forth. So, I don't know, I mean, you were gonna make a couple of calls. You did talk to the light guy, right?
I talked to the
Mike's
light
light guy.
Yeah.
About a permanent display or a
Yeah,
cost to do
yeah.
that potentially?
Well, I've asked for that, Bill, I don't have.
You don't have that,
I don't
okay.
have that yet, but I have talked to him about that.
We also went, Mel and Jim Lero and Bruce Bush and I walked around Pump House Island to see, you know, I know where this guy puts lights because I've seen him out there setting them up. We've also talked to Green Mountain Power through Bruce about, you know, having them be able to put lights on some of their property. I think that's a possibility, but I think that the other issue we have is a time issue, because Marguerite would like to know if they're gonna be lit this year for marketing purposes. Is that right?
Correct.
And we need to raise the money to get it done, so.
One of the two things that are a moving target here is, originally when I talked to Ben, I mentioned starting French Heritage Day and going through the weekend after Labor Day. Since then, we've had some second thought, and what we'd like to try to do is, if we can get it going, is actually start it the weekend of the Junior Fishing Derby. Use that as the starting point. Still capture a little bit longer, and then move the date back, or leave the date where it is on the ending, or adjust it a week or so. But we'd like to do it, we just are running out of time on what we do.
So I guess the question is, does anyone here, I don't think, we were hoping that maybe we could find someone that could do lights really easily and quickly and so on, and that may or may not be the case at this point. Do we want to go permanent? Do we want to look into going permanent in the future? Do we want to let Mike go out and solicit funds to do this for this year and take more time to put together maybe a longer term or more economical solution? I don't know. Ziggy?
How much would it cost us to go, if we, like you said, we decided to go permanent now? Is that an extra expense, a very expensive extra expense, or,
We don't have that information,
or you don't?
it's not available yet. Ben's working up some numbers. You can't use a regular street light, you have to use a theatrical type light. The best thing right now are LEDs, they last the longest,
Okay.
and they use the least amount of electricity for what you normally would. And
Oh, I
there's
just
a
thought-
control box,
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of stuff, working parts that it's kind of hard to explain, but it
It would
really.
take time to get that?
Well, it's gonna take time to get some prices if we're gonna do it right. Before I got Ben and his crew, I actually started getting on the internet and was looking up some information, and it got very mind-boggling, because again, you gotta buy systems, you gotta know what you're buying, and at that time, I didn't know, and then I discovered Ben through the internet, and like I said, they delivered a top-notch job last year.
One of the other questions was, and I know that some people love the colored lights. I've also had people say, I would just like white lights in the falls. That could be done probably fairly inexpensively. But, or, you know, and I guess we need to know both those numbers, you know, how much more would a light show be versus lights that would be turned off on a timer, just like every other light, you know, around the city that we have, or not. And that's probably, that differential between a single color and a light show, it could be small, which would be great, it could be large, which we need to figure that out. And you said there might be some funds available too?
Yeah, a couple, first off, Bill, last year, the bill that we paid to Audio Vermont Audio, or something, maybe it's Audio Video Vermont, but anyway, it was $1,872. Green Mountain Power donated $1,000 towards that bill, and the recreation programming line item in the budget paid the $872. That's how that was.
So there's no
funded
private
last year.
fundraising last year?
Green Mountain Power.
That was it?
That was the only,
Okay.
that was how that was paid for. I think Mike called John Voyer, and John agreed to fund that, and we got a check. Now, the funds that Bill's talking about is that we still have the Green Mountain Power Cooperative Agreement Fund. I don't know off the top of my head, Joan, how much money's in there. 30,000 maybe. It's 20,
Is that
20
part
or
of the
30.
FERC license money that
Yeah.
we've used for the
Yeah,
matching grants?
something like that. Anyway, that money requires, it's a Green Mountain Power cooperative account, really needs to be used for so-called basin improvements. We hold the money, but we don't control the money. Any withdrawals from that fund require approval by Green Mountain Power. And that's how, you know, we've used that money for various sources. To me, you know, this is certainly, certainly meets the straight face test to ask Green Mountain Power to authorize releasing the money. The problem, you know, I think that the real dilemma that we have in spending money on something permanent right now is knowing what we're buying. And, you know, if we could get, you know, if you could magically have a light engineer show up tomorrow and spec out and understand what we want, spec it out, and design it so that the fixtures and the wiring could be done. It's you know, it shouldn't be that complicated. But the problem is that you need somebody like a Ben Lawrence or a light engineer that really understands, you know, what type of fixtures are used, how much light, the luminaries, you know, as you get further away from the source, you know. And I really wish that we could pull this off in real short order, because, you know, I can't imagine, you know, that this would cost $10,000. I just can't imagine that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Randy?
Can I make the proposal that we allow Mike to go out and fundraise for this and get the light show guaranteed for this year? Or we kick in the funds to do it this year and then look at this for next year? Take the time, do due diligence, and do it right once.
Well, that's what I was getting at, but the point is, if we're gonna spend, I didn't know how much money it was gonna cost us for now, but like Mike said, now he says that it takes time. The way Bill had presented it, we could have made a choice, you know, so that's why I went that way.
Yeah, I just think we should either we fund it or allow Mike to go out and fundraise, or do a combination of the both. Cause it's gonna be what, 2,000 this year?
Thereabouts. If we don't make a banner thanking the people that, you know, donate, it's $1872
1872 is
I
the
think
bill,
we should
but,
do-
you
I
know,
think
I
we
don't
should-
know if when you've talked to him about additional days, it's a rental
I
agreement,
haven't.
Mike, so
Yeah, I have it, so.
it could
we're talking-
possibly be more than that.
So we're talking $2,000. So if we allow Mike to go out and fundraise for it, and he gets only 1,000 or 1,500, we fund the difference from the recreation fund, which that would fall under that guise from the recreational funds.
Just, and remove the banner idea from the letter and.
Well, no, we can even even do the banner for this year, and then,
I haven't talked to Pat, so I don't know what it would cost for a banner. That was an estimate.
Where are we gonna put the banner?
On the back of the pump house, so the people down in the basement could see it.
that's
You may not be able to read it from
That's the hard
so
part.
far away
That's the hard
though.
part.
offer them a pair of binoculars.
Yeah.
Or we put it out for,
Yeah,
I hate to put it where people can get it and steal it and
well, I
other
don't
things will
wanna,
disappear.
I don't wanna micromanage the
Nope.
former mayor's project, but I think that if we're gonna give some recognition, I think it wouldn't be able to be seen on the back of the pump house, but we have the kiosk down there and a well-done recognition on both of those kiosks,
That
would
works
show
too.
voters
Yeah,
of
that works.
who
That
did it,
works.
and we're done.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't want
Personally,
something like on the front of the pump house either, but the kiosk would be a great place to do it, yeah.
A banner was just an idea, we can do it one of 100 ways
Especially
here.
when you're looking,
That's the least worry, I mean, we can print something up a lot less than we can make a banner and put it on, like you say, on a kiosk, so that would be
Lynn, what do you
great.
think?
Go for it.
Joe?
Yeah, I'd say let Mike go ahead
And then we'll take our time and decide what to do next year and
Yeah, I
get
mean, something happens
finances
something
together.
happens quicker than we expect, then we can make a decision.
yeah.
Just to let everybody know, the letter specifies that the funds, the checks be written to the city of Regents, because they'll be controlling the money.
Yeah,
Is that okay with you? I mean, is it something we should be controlling or not?
No, I don't have a problem with it. I
Okay.
mean, Joan would rather have one check from Green Mountain Power, I can speak for her in that regard, but it's
It
okay.
doesn't matter,
It's
you
all right.
know, we'll
She just
Create
puts them in a
a
big
new-
pile and then deposits them all at
We
once.
sold,
just
we
create
sold
a-
73 memberships to the swim team already, so, we handled this.
Kevin, did you have a
size
question?
I had a question, just a comment, that we're also working on improving those kiosks down there,
Mm-hmm.
partnership, we've got, I think, like Houston's agreed to replace the plexiglass or whatever down there, and get some estimates or, someone to fix them up.
Yep, I saw Connie
Scan 'em and look
at the
them
forum,
over.
and we talked about that because I was the last person that updated them probably 3 years ago.
I updated the ones down at Parkside last year.
Oh, did you? Okay, but it would be great to have them spruced up, redone.
I was too afraid of the bees on the basin part.
There
side,
is
so I
a
didn't get in
little bit
there,
of a
but-
push to actually replace those with something that is better, that might be, have more information, a big space available, but again, that's not gonna happen this year, so if we
Right,
can get
and
them
also
up to
something
snuff this year,
either
that's great.
we put film on it, or the glass we use should have some sort of light, so that everything that's in those kiosks don't fade
fade, yeah.
because of the lighting, so.
Do we need a motion for this?
That was my question.
Sure, it's all right, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so have you made a motion, or will you make a motion?
I will make a motion. I'll make a motion that Mike Daniels will be able to fundraise for the purpose of lighting the falls for the 2013 summer season.
Second.
Second, Lynn, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
Your baby, Mike, run with it.
Letters will be going out.
Good, thank you.
Mel will just verify some verbiage there that you
Yep.
may not want, and then
Yep.
send it back to me.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's do the smoking policy while everybody's here on that, and then we can get back to the solar energy agreement. So in the packet, last meeting, and Ziggy was not here, she was in Las Vegas. We talked about policy versus ordinance. Melanie was here, told us about the pros and the cons of various, types of policies. We talked about, areas in where this may or may not be an appropriate, policy to have. And I think the result of that was that Mel was given some authority to draft a draft policy, smoking and tobacco policy, for areas within the city of Virgins, which is included in the packet. There was,
There's the two areas, this
Two
deals
areas.
with an event, the junior
right,
fishing
I'm
derby
sorry,
event.
yep. And then there's also, the city has a smoking policy, which has to do with employees. And I guess it sounds like, because that's employees versus geography, they should
Right.
remain separate.
Yep.
Okay. So all we're gonna do is deal with this smoking policy. What it does is, smoking or the use of smokeless tobacco products is prohibited within 20 feet of any city-owned building. Smoking or the use of smokeless tobacco products is prohibited in or near any city-owned vehicle. Smoking or the use of smokeless tobacco products is prohibited at the following premises: A, City Green; B, Virgins Veterans Park. And there's a definition of Virgins Veterans Park as being the parcel of land where the swimming pool, tennis courts, skate park, ice skating, and basketball multipurpose area is. In addition, we discussed that smoking or the use of smokeless tobacco products is prohibited at the following premises during the Virgins Junior Fishing Derby: A, Virgins Falls Park, and B, McDonough Park.
Is this saying that if these are not going on, that there is smoking allowed down there?
Yes. In any advertisements or whatever, we would ask it to be a non-smoking event. You can't say no, but it's, that was the, I think the way it was discussed. There'll be signage, permanent signage at City Green and Virgins Veterans Park, and I think we would have to talk about how this policy would be communicated at the events. And there really is no corrective action, legal corrective action, civil action, but this would just be that people would be asked to leave the premises if they, did not cease smoking, but that's really all we could do. Any discussion? Ziggy?
I wasn't here the last time, but I had concerns.
Yep.
And I now like to talk about these concerns.
Okay.
When the students came in front of us, this was like a project that they wanted to do, all right? And then we got involved with it. I had concerns on what was happening, mainly because of some of these other senior people that, they smoked all their lives. And now I wanna let you know, a lot of people that went into service in the last 6 years, they went in not smoking, and when they come out now, they're smoking. And that's because of, you've gotta understand what they were under over there. And I've been told that, and you probably could check with the Legion on that. My concern is that we have these people, they're smokers, they're taxpayers, they pay their share of property taxes, they maintain these parks, and they keep them up. I have never seen a problem when somebody's over there having a cigarette. Most of them are usually the older people, but there's not kids running around in these two parks, and they're enjoying themselves. They're retired people. But what I have concern, and I want to get to this point, and then I'll get back to this. A lot of people in Virginia have dogs. They urinate and I'll use the word poop, everywhere, including these places. They get picked up, and I'll tell you, when I see somebody pick up one of those things, it makes me sick to my stomach. But we put up with it. When my kids used to go down to the swimming pool, there was a lot of times I would tell them and my grandchildren, don't sit under the trees, because there was a lot of dogs that used to urinate on these trees. And they were around there, but we put up with it. And then and then there was one time coming out of Marble Works just a little while ago, there was a lady talking, she had her dog. She was talking to this other, and he didn't realize that this dog was peeing right there in front of Marble Works. I mentioned it to her, I said, do you understand what your dog is doing here? And she said, well, I thought she'd already gone enough, but I'm sorry, and turns around and continues on talking. My point I feel here is that we put up with things, and we put up with that, because they're dogs. But yet we will not put up with the people who pay taxes, who've been in the service, and to turn around in their own private life. What they do is their business, as long as it doesn't affect anybody else. And it seems to me, if we're gonna put this burden on these people, say, hey, you're more than welcome to come to any of those places, as long as you don't smoke. Then I ought to say, hey, you're welcome to come to these places and bring your dogs, as long as you guarantee they don't poop and they don't urinate. Because to me, we're putting up with these animals, but we can't put up with these people. And I don't think it's right, and I'm sorry. I think we're gonna treat them as second-rate citizens if we do this. That's the way I feel.
Thank you.
A couple comments. We discussed regulating or prohibiting smoking during any city sponsored events. And my suggestion would be to change the paragraph regarding the Junior Fishing Derby, because part of Virgins Day also occurs down in McDonough Park, and and the Falls Park. So I guess my recommended wording would be smoking or use of smokeless tobacco is prohibited at Virgins Falls Park and at McDonough Park during the following events: Virgins Fishing Derby, Junior Fishing Derby, and Virgins Day. Just include Virgins Day in those parks, because Virgins Day, some of the Virgins Day
We
events do
should
occur.
include French Heritage Day too, shouldn't
Do
we just
we have
say
French Heritage Day down
Or
there?
any
No,
functions.
It's just, it's,
any city, it should be any city function,
I
any
mean,
city-sponsored function.
the, French Heritage Day is already covered because it's in the green, on the green.
They have had events where they did have a section down there, but it got too big, and I don't know if it'll ever come
Yeah.
back, Joe. So, I mean,
Should we, I guess we should, instead of naming events, we should say any city-sponsored function.
I was gonna make a suggestion as well. I did read through it just quickly, but something that says any city-sponsored event and the designated areas in which they are occurring. That way, you have events right now, but if you start a new event next year, it's not necessarily gonna be considered part of this policy. You would have to change your policy again, but if you make it a general statement where it's any city-sponsored events and the areas in which it's occurring, then you're covering any future event that you might add later on down the road.
I understand, and if I may comment.
Yeah.
The difficulty I see with that, not that I disagree with it, would be, for example, would be the Memorial Day Parade, which is a city-sponsored event that includes, 90% of the city.
That's an American Legion event, isn't it?
Well, it's a city-sponsored event. I mean,
No.
I would classify it as
The
a city.
Legion
it's-
sponsors the parade.
Pardon me?
The Legion
Legion does
sponsors.
So the city doesn't have anything to do with it at all?
No, I mean, they
Even though
help,
close
like
our-
with Public
We work
Works
together,
and
yeah.
stuff, but it's,
Yeah.
it's,
So
if
it's not-
anyone
it's not
calls,
considered a
it's, they gotta
city-sponsored
call the
event.
Legion.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying that, it's not considered a city-sponsored event. So
Yeah.
what would city-sponsored events be then? Like, for example, the holiday stroll, is that a event?
Technically, that's a Virgins Chamber event.
Chamber event, okay.
Pumpkins in the Park.
Pumpkins in the Park is
Is
a
city.
city, it is a city/Virgins partnership
Yeah.
event, but, to me, I consider the Virgins
Our
partnership.
partnership washed their hands of that.
I consider the partnership, sponsoring an event in the park, the same as the city sponsoring an event in the park.
I mean, I'm certainly not
Silly.
opposed to saying any city-sponsored event. I mean, we actually talked about that in your office, but it's just a matter of defining what, I guess in my mind, what a city-sponsored event
Well,
is.
and I think the thing is that, you could go round and round with semantics, but really, because it's a policy, you're using some signage and you're asking people to respect other people who may not like smoking or whatever, but, if you've got a holiday stroll or whatever, no one's gonna tell, there's not gonna be many people out there in the middle of winter,
Right,
and the enforcement mechanism is probably not gonna happen.
right.
I think we all talked about the pool area making a ton of sense. City Green, if someone's out in the City Green at 10 o'clock at night, and there's no one out there, no one's gonna say a thing anyway.
Yeah.
It's really if you're in a group of people where it might be offensive to somebody. I don't see the chief going down there and telling somebody to smoke if he's sitting in the park.
Unless if
What under
somebody
the,
doesn't have something to do.
he probably wouldn't. One of the things, Joe, because the Junior Fishing Derby was talked about at the meeting, and because it's about kids,
Mhm.
and they really take over the whole area, they really do. And so that event was specifically named. I think that some other events, for instance, Melanie and I had a follow-up conversation about Field Days, and about how Field Days has an event, and they created, didn't we have this conversation?
Yeah. You're not
We were
making it up.
looking at, we had this conversation about how they've set up designated smoking areas, all right? And I think, not that, I had a lot of thought about this, but I think the Junior Fishing Derby, smoking just doesn't belong at that
Shouldn't be
event.
there at all.
It just doesn't belong, case closed, next case. Whereas some other event that's not just a kids event, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but you having a designated smoking area might be sufficient for what you're trying to make, how you're trying to make the event. work, knowing that there may be some smokers, but, I just throw that out there, Joe, I don't know. One of the things about a policy is, this, if there's no event planned up to the junior fishing derby in these areas, I'd recommend we do this policy. And then, if it's about the Basin Bash, or about, if, let's say the Halloween, if let's say that they were gonna move the haunted warehouse back to the haunted forest, then we re-examine that. But,
Right.
I don't have, strong
Yeah,
feelings
it's easy
either
enough to
way.
revise.
Well, okay, so then how about, smoking or the use of smokeless tobacco products is prohibited in Virgins Falls Park and McDonough Park during any city-sponsored event? Or do you wanna just say during any city-sponsored event and just leave those parks completely out of it?
I think that's the part, I'm sorry, can I comment?
Yeah.
That's the part where I think the Memorial Day Parade becomes difficult if that was a city-sponsored event, because it's so spread out.
Right.
Where if
I
you
mean,
designate the city-owned parks or city-owned land,
That
or
was-
city-owned parks,
Right.
then it's a little bit easier to say, yeah, it doesn't happen in these parks.
And,
'cause
and
there's
that's kind of
nothing
what,
going on there.
that's kind of my point, rather than say any city-sponsored event anywhere, designate some specific areas.
Yeah, use the parks as the
Right.
places, right?
That's kind of what and I agree with you, that's what I would, that's the language that I would prefer to see. Pardon?
It's not a barn burner for me, I mean, we can leave it the way it's written. I was just trying to simplify it.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think the real
understand your
problem, I
point.
think, is understanding what a city-sponsored event is, and what makes one event city-sponsored and another one where they just got permission from Joan to use the area.
The
You know,
definition can be
that
very
becomes,
gray.
gets,
all right,
Yeah.
then I'll go back to my original, say, Virgins Day and the fishing derby in those areas.
I think that'd be a great start.
Okay.
Okay.
And
So
I
we're just
understand your
finishing
point
the
about a
agenda.
policy, we're just getting started. But I'd like to make this, have as much teeth as we possibly can from the beginning.
Certainly Virgins Day with the rubber ducky race, there's a lot of kids. It's not the same as the junior fishing derby, but there are some similarities to that event right there.
The Maritime Museum's down there usually doing stuff, so there's people there.
So did you get that language okay?
Are we just adding Virgins Day along with Fishing
Well,
Derby?
it's just kind of turning that upside
spinning it
down.
around,
I'm saying-
instead of following premises, he's saying smoking or the use of smokeless tobacco property is prohibited at Virgins Falls Park, are you saying those, and McDonough Park?
Correct, yeah,
During the Virgins Junior Fishing Derby and Virgins Day,
correct,
period.
Okay.
yeah.
Kevin?
I just want some clarification on it. How does this get enforced? And what happens when someone gets this enforced?
There is really almost there's no legal enforcement mechanism. There'll be signs posted in the areas, the two areas of Virgins Veterans Park and the City Green, and that's it. There might be temporary signs during the fishing derby or Virgins Day. You can't arrest anybody, you can't fine anybody, you can't do anything. If someone is asked to please not smoke and they continue, conceivably,
They can be removed from the premises.
they can be removed from their premises. I mean, the police could be called and said, could you please, leave this particular area, this is a non-smoking area, but that's the extent of what they can do.
So is the chief piping on this, giving his opinion on it?
He said in the event where somebody was really obnoxious, that, he would enforce it, but hopefully people aren't gonna do that. They're gonna, if they're asked, they would just say, you just have to go over there and that's fine. That's, I think, what he said, I think.
So Kevin, just to get you up to speed, we had a long conversation about whether making a policy or an ordinance that would have and we decided to take this route in the beginning,
As opposed to an ordinance?
as opposed to.
As opposed to
That would-
fines and
right,
tickets, civil tickets.
Right.
So Randy, did you make a motion or will you remake a motion? Is
I
that
would
your
just,
intent?
I wanted to make my comments,
Okay.
if I
You should
could.
actually
Lynn?
add the motion, then Then,
Okay, whatever then.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the smoking and tobacco policy for the city of Virgins with the modifications.
Joan, you got that?
I'm doing it.
You know what the modifications were.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Joe? Discussion. Lynn?
I can't, I guess I'm not gonna vote for the draft as it is, and this is what I think. I am not a smoker, I have never been a smoker, but I do think people have rights in this city. And I think there's a reasonableness to it. And the paper helped having an article in it, so there was a lot of comments made yesterday about this whole discussion. I think wherever there's children, it goes without saying there should not be any smoking. And as far as the Virgins Veteran Park, I absolutely would support that. But when it comes to the city park or down at the falls, I think the city green is very divided. It's naturally divided by sidewalks. And it would not be very difficult to put one quadrant that is a designated smoking area. Put a couple of benches, cigarette butt containers, hopefully keeping the area clean. But I think if someone's coming to a band concert or coming to some event, like the dance before Virgins Day, those things are natural things that, yes, I agree, they're probably older people that do it, but they still are, they have their rights too. I don't necessarily think that I'd like to die from smoking, but if that's their choice, there should be a place for them to do it that doesn't impede on my smoking, the smoke coming into my lungs. I think there's a way to make this so that no matter who you are, you can come and enjoy an event, whether you're a smoker or you're not a non-smoker, and be able to say, you're welcome to smoke, but you can't smoke here. You need to go over into that area. And then when you're done smoking, you can come back, enjoy the band concert over here. But there's more things that go on in the city besides Virgins Day and the fishing derby. Every Wednesday, there's 100 people in the park. Why not just make them a space? Keep it clean.
Interesting idea. What do you think, Joe?
I
Is it
guess I
worth
would-
pursuing that, or is it,
I personally would disagree on a couple of levels. Number one, the basin, we're only talking about 2 days out of 300. We have 363 days out of the year people can smoke down there.
Well, the Derby's a weekend, but.
Yeah, okay, so 362, yeah. In terms of the city green, I just think it's too small and too fine an area to put a designated smoking area. I just don't think it would work on the city green. I personally don't feel like it would work there. And again, in terms of the basin, non-smokers certainly have rights as well as smokers to not have to smell it, and I certainly wouldn't want to. And again, people can smoke down there, as you said, 363 days out of 360, or 362 out of 365 days a year. So I guess I would not, with due respect,
I understand that.
would not agree.
But I think there's enough, take the Falls Park out of it, because I don't think that many people use it that much anyway. But the city park has natural barriers. There's bushes, there's the monument, there's a lot of things that keep the park separated. And I don't think it would be an unreasonable thing. And what are we talking about? 5 people, 6 people, 10 people? How much of a distance? Yeah, I know. So, rather than say, you're not welcome here, or we don't want you because you smoke, say, we want you to be part of the community. We want you to be up, whether you're rolling across in your wheelchair from the nursing home. We want you there. I'd rather see something more cooperative.
I'm sensing, it's not 3 out of 5 to pass something legally. For this board to pass a motion, they need a majority of the board.
4.
They need 4, the
Gotcha.
board, and my sense is that you
There's
can
not
vote on
gonna
it,
be
you
4
can vote on
votes
it,
here.
that's right,
I didn't realize, that. I was curious about that,
Yeah,
okay.
You have to, yeah, you have to have a majority of the board. This has come up before.
Okay, I'm glad you told me that, because I was curious about that.
Well, then we
Ziggy,
should-
do you have any more comments?
Yes, when I was talking about this, I'm talking about everyday things, you know, not with the special events. I don't feel that, well, of course, I don't feel about the pool, about dogs either. I don't feel that concerning the pool where there's a lot of kids, I don't think they need to be smoking down there, to be honest with you.
Or anywhere in that park.
The whole place. But when you get back to the City Green and Regents Falls Park and the McDonough Park, then I feel that a lot of people nowadays, they're not blowing smoke in people's faces, you know, but sometimes they wanna have a smoke, and it's not that it's just a habit they have.
Yep.
And it's not, and if there's less and less of them, that's coming along. But like, again, as I found out, is that a lot of people that went in the service, they aren't smokers when they went in, but they are now. And I just don't wanna give them that impression that if you want it, you're more welcome to come here, as long as you don't smoke. All right?
Okay.
And
What do you think, Randy?
well, I'm a cigar smoker, so I'm the most offensive out of everybody. When I go out, if I'm watching an event, and I choose to be kind to other people by choice,
What do you mean by being kind?
not smoking.
Well, if you're standing on one side of the street and somebody's on the other side, you know.
Doesn't make a difference,
That's
cigars,
for you, but it doesn't say, you know, yeah, the being kind,
And
it
as
doesn't
far
really
as-
affect that person.
let me finish, please. I mean, that's a personal choice that I make, and that other people, you know, it's not that we don't want them to come to the events. Yesterday up at the park, we had babies in strollers, we had pregnant women walking around. And I think if I recall, I was there all day, I don't think I saw more than 2 people having a cigarette.
Mhm.
But anything that is gonna have numbers of people where there are pregnant women there and children there, I don't see a problem with saying, we request that you don't smoke during that event. I guess, my opinion was just a blanket no smoking. But, I mean, during the event where there's gonna be large amount of people around, it seems out of good community that you would take the other people's concerns into play. And I am a smoker, and I choose to be a smoker.
So it sounds to me as if we have an agreement on Virgins Veterans Park as potentially being a no smoking area and a policy. And that we have a consensus that for the Virgins Day and the Junior Fishing Derby, for those events, there may be a no smoking policy. There is disagreement on the city green, whether it be no smoking, nothing at all, or designated smoking area. But I think if we need 4 votes, I don't see 4 votes going for any of those options.
No.
And I think at this point, we need to table it, think about it, talk about it, and probably when our other 2 members come back, we'll discuss it a little further. Maybe there's a way we can talk about it individually with each other and come up with a solution that might work for everybody.
If there was a motion and a second,
We need to vote
the
on that.
seconder can, if the seconder withdraws their second and the motioner withdraws their motion, then
It's done.
you're back to where you were.
Joe, you seconded it?
Yeah, I'll withdraw.
I'll
Randy?
withdraw.
Okay.
Okay.
So we will keep this on the agenda.
Yeah, and maybe I know Ziggy, you were in, I thought that, was Ziggy also on the subcommittee dealing with this, or
Yes.
not? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Zig-
she was.
Okay.
I was, but we
You were
never
gone.
met because I
Okay.
was gone.
Yeah.
So I think, I just don't think that the work's done.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think hearing this, I think that there are points well taken, so I think we can just we'll table it and,
Jay has something.
yeah.
Yeah, do you mind if we say a few things?
No,
Just-
no.
I understand that you need to do this, and I appreciate the fact that the council is taking the time to talk about this, just for the students' sake and for, the health of our citizens. But I do want to say that we didn't originally bring this to the council to be against smokers or to make them feel like they're not welcome on the green or at Veterans Park or any of those sorts of places. We want everybody to enjoy whatever events are going on there. We want them to enjoy the green. What we don't want to have to deal with is, because sometimes I choose to not go onto the green because someone is smoking there. So that is affecting me as a non-smoker. And I think that's the piece that I really want you to consider is the safety and health of the majority of our citizens. And Randy, I appreciate the fact that you choose to smoke in places where it's not going to affect people. And that's why we came to you, is because smoking does affect people. I can't avoid secondhand smoke if someone is smoking near me. If someone's smoking on the green, I can smell it anywhere else on the green in general, depending on which way the wind's blowing. So I just want the council to keep that in mind, that we're asking you to set up a few places in the city that we know that we can go and not have to deal with cigarette smoke. Now, someone could be standing over by the post office, I guess, and smoke, or, and that could blow into the city green. That's certainly possible, and I know that we would still have to deal with that, but we wouldn't have to deal with it right on the green. So it's two places. I appreciate the fact that you're looking at, the Veterans Park as being not a place to have smoking because there are so many children there, but I just encourage you to really think about the green as well. The other piece too is with doing the policy, again, we're not looking to fine lots of people, we're not looking to get people in trouble, I mean, that's not what this is about. It's about creating a safe place for, for people to be and not have to deal with that. So.
Tony?
I just wanted to make a couple comments. In terms of large events, I think I had mentioned this last time, there is the option of putting a clause in the public use permit, so if there's any group using any public property, you can make that a smoke-free event then. So when you're talking about large events with lots of people, that could be a way to make that happen, just put it in your public use permit. As far as people not being able to use the park, I think in most instances these policies or ordinances aren't meant to discourage people from using the parks. Parks are definitely wonderful places for everybody to use. It's just asking that while you're at the park, you don't smoke. The same way we're asking when you're at the park, you don't consume alcohol. We would never tell people they can't consume alcohol on their own time, but don't consume alcohol in the public parks. I think it's similar if you think about it that way. If you're asking them not to drink alcohol on the public park, asking them not to smoke on the public park is along similar lines. It's just, and to some aspect, smoking is more harmful because of the secondhand smoke. And as far as the city green goes, one thing to consider, everybody knows about the dangers of secondhand smoke, and that's what you focus on. But there's other consequences of people smoking on the city green. One thing is perception by youth as far as the number of people who smoke. When in a very public place, such as the city green, when kids see people smoking there, they're more apt to think that more people smoke than what they do. And kids tend to follow the norm. So if they see that, if they think, wow, 40% of the people are smokers, and they're thinking that because they're seeing lots of people smoke on the city green, research has shown that they're more likely to do that habit. So one reason to maybe not have it on the city green is because it will decrease the youth perception that people smoke. So that's one piece about, even if there aren't a lot of people on it, when people do drive by and when kids do walk by, if they see people smoking there because it is such a public place, which is different from like the falls, they're more apt to think that more people smoke than what they do, which leads them to maybe smoke. And also, the Boy Scouts were greening up, and I think a lot of them had commented, because my son is a Boy Scout, on the number of cigarettes that they found all over the place. So beyond just the secondhand smoke, it's the cigarette litter that's detracting from the beauty of Virgins to consider as well. And those are just things I wanted to point out as you consider it. It's definitely, your choice, but there are things besides just secondhand smoke that you might want to think about as you move forward one way or the other.
Thank you.
So can I go?
Yeah, Kara?
Is there a reason why you can't adopt a policy tonight just regarding Veterans Park? I mean, I'm just thinking swim meets start soon, the pool's opening up soon. I felt like there was a consensus from everybody that that part should be smoke-free. Is there any reason why we can't, so we can at least get the signs up in that area before the pool opens and the swim meets start?
Nothing can stop it.
we should do it as an all-in-one.
Yeah, I'd rather be able to,
Keep it clean.
yeah, I mean, we certainly can add and subtract and so on, but I think if, if it's 2 more weeks, it's not gonna make or break it.
Yeah, well, it just feels like this may be a bigger issue, and it may take longer and involve more discussion.
Well, I mean, I think if that's the case, then I would say that I think if there is agreement there, and if we don't do it in 2 weeks, we can certainly take that step in 2 weeks. And if it gets more complicated, then, we can do it, simple policy, as we agree on it then. But I don't think tonight, we still don't, well, we would have potentially 4 votes. But I think I'd like to hear from the other 2 members as well.
Okay, well, I would just strongly encourage you to get at least that one taken care of before the pool opens for the summer, which is in,
Today.
well, today was the first day of swim meet. But the first swim meet is the last weekend, the last Thursday in June.
Okay.
So I would encourage you to have that in place because, it is such a big event. And up until a year and a half ago, there was no smoking on that property anyway.
Right, yep.
So,
We knew that, that was part of our,
so just to get that, at least get that taken care of, and then you can hash out some of the other details later.
okay.
And there is some carryover from that, so I think less people are smoking there anyway because
Yeah.
it was.
They don't know the status.
They don't know that
Right.
they
We're
can't
not
smoke.
gonna broadcast this, not on.
Right, sorry. Please don't publicize. The one other thing I want to add as you guys are thinking about this is maybe thinking about putting in the policy something about why you're doing this. St. Albans, I don't know how many of you have been able to take a look at some of the other ordinances or policies in other communities in Vermont, but the city of St. Albans specifically mentions theirs happens to be an ordinance, but you can do this in a policy too. The U.S. Surgeon General has repeatedly reported that there's no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke. And then number 6 under that then is in order to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of park users, the city council seeks to prohibit smoking in all city parks. So they're just explaining why they're doing it, that the city council believes that it's important to protect our citizens from secondhand smoke.
We've already got
So
that.
maybe that,
Yellow,
yeah, and I know Mel has copies of all this because I sent them to him. So maybe for those that are smokers or have smoked on the city green before, they understand where this is coming from, and why the city is encouraging not smoking in those public places.
Okay. Great, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Solar Energy Services Agreement, Mel.
There was a meeting, Lynn, Rennie, Bill, and myself. We met last week, and I shared with the subcommittee the information that we received from the town of Randolph, which supplied us with not only their finished agreement, but a red line version of what their changes were. And I think that there was certainly consensus amongst the 3 members of the council that were there to authorize me to sign agreement that would incorporate most, if not all, of the changes that are found in the Randolph agreement. And just to let you know why there is some urgency in this, and it really deals with, there is a change in the tax code that will take effect on December 31st relative to the depreciation of solar equipment. And any facility has to be up and running by December 31st to be eligible for that benefit to the investor, if you will. And so if I think there was some discussion about what's the haste and about this, and that's the real reason is because of the IRS code. So again, I'd ask for approval of the city council to enter into that solar services agreement with Green Mountain Land Trust.
This has to do down the sewer.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I make said motion.
One second.
Motion and second. Discussion.
How did you feel about, I guess you and Lynn were on that, how did you feel about the document itself?
Oh, it was a real easy read. Lynn?
It was very complicated.
Yeah.
We have to trust somebody who understood it more than I did.
Okay.
That was him.
That was me.
Yeah, now, have you spoken to Encore relative to those amendments?
I have not spoken to
To them.
Chad. you know, we've exchanged some emails, he knows what our calendar is, and he knows.
Does he know
He
what-
knows
what-
about Randolph, he knows.
Well, right, I mean,
you
the
know.
consensus would be, if they accepted it from Randolph, I would assume they'd accept it from us as well.
Correct,
That's
Right.
what we thought in our meeting, so,
Yes.
okay, and so that's where we're at.
right.
And so I think we would authorize you to enter into those negotiations, and if there's a problem, you come back to the council and we deal with it.
Right.
Okay.
But just to be clear, I wanna sign this agreement, I mean, there is some level of negotiation.
Yep.
Bill, but, you know, as long as this agreement is in substantial form to that which was entered into with the town of Randolph, we, you know, the committee
We will
found was
agree
fine.
agree to have you sign that.
Right,
Right.
And if you feel otherwise, you will then report back to us.
right, right.
And that's-
Like, for instance, an example I give is the floor, okay? The 16-cent floor. I don't wanna say that that's a deal breaker, but that is a problem. That if electric rates do not go up, this, with their proposed floor of 16 cents, if electric rates, don't go up, that's a problem for us at year 11, all right? And that's why Randolph, and I've talked to Chad about this before, that's why the floor needs to stay at that 14.7 cents. So that we don't, so that there's precludes any possibility that it becomes a bad deal in year 11.
Yeah, I think we agreed with that,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah, okay.
We agreed with that, yes.
Any other discussion? Joe, Ziggy? There's a motion made, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. Dog warrant. We have, now, help me out here, are these all dogs that are not registered now?
Well, we've done some work, Joan, you weren't at work.
I didn't understand this either.
I
so
was
you
a
have to
little,
explain
yeah, I
it.
wasn't sure exactly what
Yeah,
what the
so,
list was.
well, Joan can explain what this is. Go ahead, Jane and Joan, and then I'll talk about what's happened today.
The dog warrant is, those are the dogs, owners, that were registered last year, that did not register this year. They've all received 2 letters.
Okay.
The first one, very friendly, oops, you must have forgot to register your dog, you know, you need to take care of that within 10 minutes, 10 days. Got no response in 2 weeks, so then a second letter goes out, and it tells them, if you no longer have your dog, please contact us so we can stop bothering you with this correspondence, and we'll put it in our history. And these people have not responded to any degree. Well, I shouldn't say to any degree, like, one sent his neighbor up to register 2 dogs, but one of them needed a rabies shot. We don't have that, so the guy said, I'm just not gonna do any, cause he brought me a check for both, and he left. So these dogs remain unregistered at this time.
Okay.
And it's a lot of the same people that were there last year, and it gets a little frustrating, because this process, the officer, the police officer will go to their door and say, you know, I've got a dog warrant, and it appears your dog is not registered. I can allow you 5 more days before I have to come back here and take the dog if you don't comply with state law. And most of them call, can't get into the vet instantly, so they call us and say, you know, I can't get into next Tuesday. We make a notation, we work with them, you know, we're not trying to have.
So we're just trying to get them to register their dogs.
Right, because
That's what we're trying to do.
3/4 of these, the rabies have expired. And people may have had their shots, but we have not been given a copy, so we don't know. And it's all about just keeping everyone safe from dog bites, you know?
Swear Joe and deputize him,
That's
send him
right.
the vaccine.
So Joe, you must be able to
Here,
share
Joe,
some
take that
information with us
list
here.
I can't tell you how many calls we've gotten over the years at 10 o'clock at night or Sunday afternoon saying, hey, I gotta get my dog a rabies shot,
Yeah,
an emergency
clerk
rabies shot.
sent me a letter, they're coming to get it if I don't.
Joan's gonna come to my house, I need a rabies shot.
Let me just tell you, my recommendation would be for, if the city council is inclined to sign this warrant, would be to remove Justin Bassett, Candace Hoffman, and Bill Walsh from this list, because they have all been to City Hall today.
Okay. Did you get those names, Joan?
Justin Bassett, Bill Walsh, and who was the other one?
Candace Hoffman.
Okay, so there's three, good.
You know,
I already know one that's got two
I know Bill
dogs.
real well, I'm surprised you didn't.
Not one.
So this just needs to be signed by us?
Yes.
No motion.
I don't,
No, you have to sign the actual warrant.
Yep, okay.
And we give it to, the
Police.
police chief.
She's got the actual.
So what?
John will draw a line through those three.
Yeah, they're on the back, I'll just draw one.
So
Okay,
do we just assume that everybody's honest and saying I only have one dog?
Well, one of the things, Lynn, is that if we learn of another dog,
I'll change that number from 1 to 2 or 2
you
to
know, there's been
3,
years
whatever
where
you
the
got.
council gets a second warrant, a third warrant, as we learn about other dogs.
Yeah,
So, you know, not that this is an agenda item every other Tuesday, but.
I do
think that
remember it coming up a few
Yeah,
times.
it comes back again,
Yeah, okay.
if we learn.
And is
more.
there a limit of how many dogs any household can have? Is there ever?
not
Not
anymore.
anymore.
Okay, that's what
As long as they meet the requirements.
So there's the original dog warrant everyone can sign, which is the same as your copies, but that list attached to it is all like when the
She's just
rabies
gonna
run
take care of
out
Yeah,
and,
she's gonna take care of the other.
yeah, it's just the top you gotta deal with.
Okay, we'll pass that around. Bond anticipation note, Mel, you put a letter from the National Bank of Middlebury in there for the new police station. Just bring us up to speed with that.
Sure, I priced out, if you will, a bond anticipation note interest between, I only went to two of the banks located in Virgins, one being National Bank of Middlebury and the other one being the Merchants Bank. The Merchants Bank rates for a bond anticipation note were 1.45%, and the bond anticipation rate for the National Bank of Middlebury was 0.95.
Big
So,
spread.
yeah, Shelley Quinn at the Merchants Bank is floored in her words.
Wow.
But my guess is the National Bank of Middlebury had 1.45 million kicking around with nothing to do with it. So
Okay.
anyway, this acts like a line of credit, if you will. You know, that we pay interest only on money as is dispersed.
So this would
from
serve
us.
as our construction loan.
Right, so what I would be seeking would be authorization from either Joan or I to sign any required documentation associated with this bond anticipation note.
Okay.
Are you asking either one or both of you?
Well, I'm not sure who's signing. When the forms come here, it's fine for me for it to be Joan. I don't have 1.45 million, so, you know, Joan may have it, we default. So I don't-
Does it require a double signature on an amount that big? Well, it's not.
I don't
A
know.
bond anticipation note, they're gonna prepare a thing and it's gonna come back to the board.
I don't know. I don't know if it
Yeah.
is or it isn't,
It's
but
gonna
okay.
come back to you guys to sign.
To sign.
We
Yeah.
didn't do that for the fire
We
trucks.
don't do anything.
I bet we did. Bond anticipation notes require council approval and I attest that you all sign.
whatever, well, I don't know what the National Bank's forms are gonna look like, but
Okay.
Well,
we're gonna.
The banks we have dealt
So
with.
you need a motion and a vote on this?
Yes,
I make the motion.
Okay.
yeah.
Motion made,
Second?
Randy second. So what we need to approve,
But we're gonna move,
move this process along,
yeah,
get the
and if
paperwork
Joan-
back. If
If
we
they
need to
come back
sign
and
it,
want
we
something,
will.
we'll bring it to you.
Yeah,
Okay, so we have to
Otherwise,
vote.
one of you will be the signer for
Sign.
that, for that note.
Right.
This is like a line of credit,
Correct.
so we will draw it down as necessary.
Right.
as we spend it.
And on a related matter, just so that you know, the Merchants Bank, they actually have gotten into the municipal bond business, and they are a competitor of the municipal bond bank. And so I'm meeting with Shelley either this week or next, whatever my calendar tells me. And, but again, I really, we talked about this, that we would not rush to do these bonds in July, but rather wait until this project is over. And if this project ends up requiring, you know, $50,000 or $100,000 less in bonding, we would do that. And obviously, we're not gonna know that until the end of the project,
Okay.
so.
Yep.
The decision on where we acquire the bonds, if you will, that can remain an open question at this point.
Good. So we have a motion and a second and discussion. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. City council liaison to police station project.
I nominate Rennie.
I was gonna nominate Rennie.
Well, we'll let Mel talk about it briefly.
Yeah, but, Bill and I sat here saying, what's the right term for this? What's the right term for this? Let me tell you, for instance, George and I went down and met with Bread Loaf on Friday, and I want to say was not very flexible. I was not very flexible
twisted a
about
few
certain
arms.
things because I grew to hate the thing that you brought up. I grew to love what you brought up, Zig. I grew to hate the part of that plan about this hallway leading to the area, and so I should have brought it with you, but I made that booking room rectangular so that when you come out of the Sallyport area, you come to the booking room. All right, and there's no corner.
We're
there's
gonna
no
call that the
hallway,
Ziggy Como booking room now.
And basically what that did is, like I say, I should have brought this to you. Instead of having the two witness rooms adjacent to one another, they're across the hall from one another, and it made the evidence storage room a little bit smaller. The point I'm getting at is really, I think that the committee did a good job working on this thing, but when you get to this point, you can't build a building by committee, all right? But that's not to say that the architects and George and I might disagree about something and you have somebody else that we can kind of turn to. And I'm not, well, we didn't want to say.
Wouldn't that be better?
We don't want to use that word because
we may run into some things where another set of ears and another set of eyes could be used. So,
or if there's a situation where Rennie wants to come back and tell us, he would be, you and he would update us on various aspects of it.
Right.
And there may be an issue that he is really gonna be the one that tells us.
We better go back to the city council on this, okay? Because otherwise.
We felt we need a representation on, for those decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
As opposed to just Mel.
So we don't know the name, if we don't know what to call it, mediator might be okay, liaison is kind of okay. But I just need a go-to person when decisions need to be made fairly quickly, really, as opposed to gathering up
And
folks.
he had experience, I did talk to him, just one-on-one, saying, we think we need this person, would you be willing to do it, would you think about doing it? And he said, he's in Burlington, but he is available by phone, by email, whatever, and he is back here every late afternoon, and he said, I'll do it if we need someone, so, I would like a motion just to appoint him as our liaison, which you already did.
Who seconded that then?
Who seconded it?
Joe.
Joe seconds it, okay, so,
And
That's what
it's
happens
Rennie
when
you're
you're not
talking.
it's Rennie,
Yep.
yep.
And then there will always be but then when we have a city council, we'll be told what has happened.
Oh, yeah.
We got that be a standing item, sure.
It'll be a standing item for the next
All
6
right.
months.
So what changes and all that?
Yep, okay.
You guys gonna establish some sort of a construction group, other than Mel, to participate in the actual progress as they build a building?
It's gonna be Mel, Rennie,
George.
Chris, and George.
Okay.
Because we can't build a building with a committee.
Right.
Are you, have you closed or is there a closing on the land yet?
There is not a date scheduled, but I have set a date of no later than June 30th. I've talked to Bruce Berry a number of times since the vote, spoke to him this morning, as a matter of fact, because we don't own the property, so a key to the building got onto my desk today, and we've got permission from him to dig some test holes adjacent to the foundation so that we know what kind of concrete's there. I sent an assessment card to Deb Ryan. Deborah Ryan is his attorney, and so I had to send her an assessment card. I'm sure that deals with land gains tax, is my guess. And I've sent an email to Jim Lamette telling him to initiate the title search on the property, and I've told everybody a closing date by June 30. That's, the
All right.
sooner the better.
What was the last discussion that we had on the land? the extra land that's there? Did we decide to drop it, or did we decide to pick up an extra?
There has been no action in that regard, Zig. And I think, and I'm not saying that we'll never talk about it, but I have authorized Bread Loaf to engage Otter Creek Engineering to initiate their survey and their site plan. When we get that site plan, we can bring that back to the city council, and then you can have a decision about whether or not you want to acquire more
Okay.
land. So
The
you're-
smaller
you're-
building didn't require all of that land or any of that land, but I think if we feel we wanna do it, we still have
Right, but it's
verbal
that's-
agreement
right,
with,
and that's
uh,
Vermont Industrial Park, so
Yeah,
it's separate
right.
from
Yeah.
separate from Bruce Berry.
Because we
so-
gotta look ahead down the road too, you never know.
and that's not included in the bond, but it would have to be financed.
Right,
Right.
so we'll get you a site plan, but I have never officially told Vermont Industrial Parks that we are not interested in any land. I've never
Good.
confirmed that, I've just
So it's
let
still
that,
open-ended.
that's correct.
Okay.
Good.
All in favor of appointing Rennie as liaison?
Aye.
Okay, Mel, city manager's report, budget report?
Yeah, budget report, obviously, I'm talking about the one that would include the bills that you approved tonight.
Through May 28th, I think it was.
Yeah, I'm gonna, I don't really have any other comments, I don't have any comments about the budget report, if you will.
Okay.
I'll just set that aside. The proposed FY 2014 city budget, that's what I handed out tonight. I can tell you that based on this budget, it does appear, which should be of no surprise, of some increase in the tax rate. When you just look at the property tax line going from, based on this budget, from $1,361,099 to $1,493,512. So we have a difference of $130,000 increase in property tax need. And when you divide that by the grand list, which has not been totally settled yet because there's grievance tomorrow night, the grand list is $218,500,000. So if you were to just do that math, I think it equals like 68.8 cents, I think is what the number I ran, compared to the current rate of 62 cents, 62.07, I think is what
That's
the rate.
10%, isn't it?
Yes, it
That's a
is.
lot.
Now, one of the things is that property tax number assumes a $50,000 cash carryover. That cash carryover may be higher, may be lower. And as we get closer to June 30, I can hone in on that, but I'm not ready quite yet to, we have another month's worth of payroll, we have another month's worth of bills, so, this is, obviously, not only the $50,000 can move, delinquent taxes has something to do with this, with your fund balance as well. But just, I gotta have some assumption, and the assumption that I used was $50,000. And
But that 6.8 cents includes the bond, which is
well,
what,
it
4
includes
cents?
includes interest.
Yeah.
It includes the bond anticipation note, which is really only about $10,000. So
Okay.
in the general fund, when you look through it, when kind of, the administrative budget is down by about 20,000. Police, I accompanied a memo which includes some capital purchases that George has in there. Not everything in his memo is included in the budget. There's about $10,000 worth of items which to me are more drug investigation related, and I feel that we ought to be able to to obtain grant funds as opposed to general fund dollars for that. The Public Works is up primarily because of increased stormwater expense. That's the line that probably jumps off the page for you. So when you add up, when you add up the police and public works increases, coupled with, remember that last year we had a fund balance carryover that we used of $95,000. So when your fund balance, projected fund balance goes from $95,000 down to $50,000, you need to find $45,000, which is 2 cents in the tax rate in and of itself. But it's still a little premature to be projecting fund balance and projecting a precise tax rate, quite at this early date. But in another couple weeks, we'll be able to hone in on that. The other departments, if you will, or other funds, fire department. I mean, Jim Brewer, Chief Brewer's budget is almost identical to that of the year before. We actually do foresee a similar carryover of $15,000 in that, and I'm still waiting to hear back from Ferrisburg, because we have to do some different kind of math as it relates to Ferrisburg, because we don't cover the entire town. We only cover about 40% of the town, so I'm waiting to hear back from Pam on that. The sewer department is a balanced budget. The sewer fund continues to be strong. It's got a fund balance of about $80,000 or $90,000, so there's certainly no need to be talking about a rate increase. If anything, what we probably could be talking about is, what do we do with that fund balance? Should it be going into sewer line replacement or capital reserve funds? The pool budget, it ended the year with about $4,700, so it's still in decent shape. And I've got a balanced budget there. But it's funny, it's been real good the last few years, and it's a tight. Fortunately, the pool's in good shape with a pump and whatever. But I can tell you, I am a little bit concerned with the pool. I actually thought about reducing the amount of money that we allocate from the watershed fund into the pool, and decided not to make that change, because I really think that that roof is going to need to be replaced in a few years, and it we probably will need that $4,700. So that one's looking a little bit tight.
You notice you'd increase the electricity budget at the sewer plant. Shouldn't that go down if we're gonna get the solar array and get some of that money back?
I did see that, and we could. I don't want to
wait and see.
Yeah, I want to see it up and running, but I did think about that, Bill.
Okay.
That maybe we'd see a credit, but remember, it's $4,120.
I know, it's not gonna make a lot of difference.
If it got online on December 31st, that's half of $4,120. So yeah, if you want to take a couple $1,000 off that $62,000 line,
well, we could look at more than that if we
So
did.
now, overall, how did we do this winter? I mean, again, the weather.
Great winter.
It was a good winter.
never ran any. I think we did pay out a little bit of money.
$12.50.
Yeah,
out of 10.
It was really another pretty easy year.
No overtime or very little overtime.
And I tell you, I hear about the transportation fund where how they got in trouble, where you have an easy year and so you budget accordingly. Well, you never want to look at an easy year. Don't look at the easy year. Look at the rough years. Budget for rough years, because you never know where they're going to come. And as you can see, I haven't adjusted any overtime in public works. I haven't adjusted any winter maintenance materials. I haven't adjusted any equipment rental. None of those have been adjusted, just because 3 out of the last 4 years we haven't used any of it. But so I'm not.
But then you have a nice carryover, which is
yeah.
worth planning for.
Yeah.
Or not planning.
So anyway, this when you look at it, it's not like me to be putting a budget in front of you with a 6-cent increase in the tax rate. But we have a grand list that shrunk a little bit, and we have agreements tomorrow night. Our grand list, I think, is down about $1 million from last year, and you know, when you only have, you know, one house or a house and a half and 12 sheds, you know, on the punch list of added value to the grand list, you know, that's what's happened to us. It's,
What about the, Green Mountain Power in Valco?
well, Green Mountain Power, their assessment actually went down. They were on a 3-year freeze to 2009, so now they are using the new methodology as determined by the tax department. What is it, about 1.2 million is what we ended up drop in Green Mountain
Yeah,
Power.
it was over a million, yeah.
1.2 million. So what happens, you know, Green Mountain Power, 1.2 million. The senior housing project filed in accordance with the law to be valued based on the rental housing subsidy covenant. That resulted in that property being reduced by 1.8 million. So, and Velco, I think, is about even, but you take the Green Mountain Power and the senior housing project, you know, that's $3 million. And if you think about it, what has been constructed in Virgins in the last year? And you won't come up with $3 million worth of construction.
I thought the senior housing project was gonna be, they were gonna pay full share for taxes, property taxes. I was under that assumption.
It's a statutory law that
It's
went
right.
into effect a few years ago. And I don't think there's any, I mean, you can enter into a payment in lieu of taxes, which is something that's off the grand list books.
Yeah.
You know, if you know, if their bill is going to be 20,000, or it should be 50, and by this statute, they're paying 30, you know, you could negotiate a payment that would be between 30 and 50, but it has to be, agreed upon. And the problem with these housing, you know, these elderly housing projects is there's so many partners that nobody, you know, I think getting a successful negotiation to do that is pretty rare.
Well, Mel, I mean, I think it was the same place where you were, cause I was kinda told that too.
Yeah.
We were told something about that.
Well, I don't know, you know, I don't recall any discussion about, you know, what, you know, somebody saying we pay full taxes. I can tell you they pay taxes, they pay property taxes. It's really about what is their assessment based on. And their assessment is because the property is subject to a rental housing subsidy covenant, there's a statute. It's not about market value of a typical fair market value.
Apparently that was left
sales.
out.
Yeah.
It's paid on the reduced income
Yeah,
because it's a
Exactly.
subsidized housing project, and
But they
last
are-
year you used straight cost, this year you got called on the carpet because it was completed and they had to qualify with these current rents.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
They were not eligible the first year because they
Yeah.
did not have 1 year's worth of expense information. And now that they do have a year's worth of expense information, and HUD set rents, their revenue stream is very restricted, you know. So it's not like they're collecting market rents over there and therefore can pay market property tax values. It's primarily the revenue side.
We have about 5 of them in Middlebury, it's the same thing. I'm not saying it's fair, but unfortunately, that's the law.
Or fortunately,
Yeah,
if you're a senior.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One question, Mel.
Yeah.
General expenses, we went from 5,000 in unemployment compensation to 25,000.
Thank you.
Is that a typo?
That is a typo.
Good. I
Because
just
it was
saved
supposed to be
us 20
2,500.
Hey there, I just saved us 22.5.
There's a penny. Never
See?
mind. 5 cents. I take it all back.
There we go. Are you done?
Keep looking
You know what?
now.
I
Yeah.
found a number of those. I didn't see that one, but yeah, keep
Good.
looking. Find 4 more of those. You'll be
Joe
great.
has
I'll try.
I know we're running out of time, but I gotta,
What would that 68.8 you said before now be?
It's a penny. You can go. You
It
can
would
go
be
by penny.
exactly a penny?
Sure.
So it would be 67.
Yes.
There you go. Boy, that's
There,
good.
thank.
We're
Good
not
find.
done
Bill.
yet, so.
Any
Oh, I
other
know.
questions,
just a
Joe?
couple, I know we're running out of time.
Preliminary, I know what the word means.
A couple quick questions, I mean,
Sure.
under heating fuel for the, administration budget, you have 0 budgeted?
I hope not.
Oh, there goes that
Right,
penny.
there we go. What is it now, Mel?
You can see that I did this till 6:45 tonight.
Yeah,
Where are you?
page 2.
Page 2, heating fuel,
A, no, there's nothing budgeted.
Where are you?
heating fuel and general operations.
Oh, you know what? That right there should be, it should be 42.90. It's 1,300 gallons times $3.30. So So there went
Oh, geez.
some of it.
Okay, Andy, now you're gonna have to adjust that again.
Another,
I'll call you in the morning, Andy. So anyway, that's that one.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
buy the first 1,300 gallons, so it's
Okay.
42.90 is what that should be. Let me circle
Why
this
don't
other
you
one.
send me an email?
I will, yeah.
and I just curious, I didn't see the Opera House in here anywhere, or if you.
That's correct.
Right.
The
so
VP
I-
and the
I-
Opera House, but the library is in here.
The library is in there,
yep,
yeah.
And the,
Rescue squad.
and the partnership, but there's nothing budgeted for the partnership at this point.
Correct.
That's correct.
I just wanna make sure it wasn't like snuck into the.
No.
We had talked about maybe squeezing it into administration somewhere, but, or at least that's, had been part of the conversation.
Well, you know, one of the things,
That'll be
you know,
a budget
obviously.
discussion.
Understood.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly, that's the,
Yep.
I mean, last year it was in there, the council said, take it out of here, put it over here, whatever, and I mean,
I just wanna make sure it wasn't somewhere where I didn't quite see it, and, okay.
no, cause watershed expenses are not part of any of these funds budgeted.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Any other questions of Mel for budget? We'll be talking about it in detail in the next few meetings. Good. All I have to say is we had a good forum last Wednesday. There were just under 50 people there. There were some good ideas. I got a memo from Shannon Haggett, who was in charge of one of the committees, which I haven't had a chance to talk to Mel about it or anybody, but I'll print it out. And two other committees are gonna report to the rec committee on projects that were discussed. And so I think it's just something that'll add some interest, some ideas, something that we can maybe, put together some kind of a long-term plan to fund some of these projects. I think a lot of them would qualify for funding out of the Water Tower Fund conceivably as a long-term capital improvement. But, right now I think our priority is gonna be the budget for the next few weeks. And we
We
have
have
a
a meeting next week?
first budget hearing,
Okay, when is
meetings
that?
next week
Next Tuesday?
at 6 o'clock.
Oh,
Where? Here?
Now, is that strictly a budget work session?
It can be anything you want.
Now,
Nothing you want, right? If you wanna deal with the smoking thing as well, or, doesn't matter to me, Bill.
well, we want to make sure that Rennie is here and Lowell is here.
Yeah.
When you talk about a budget work session, do we have an agenda? Or is it?
No.
No.
It's a meeting, it's a
It
public
is a meeting and Joni's here
Joni
taking
needs to be there,
minutes.
take
Okay.
minutes,
Okay.
but there's no city council agenda, it's just warned as a budget work session. Now, if there's some business that you wanna conduct, then we would wanna prepare an agenda.
I think I would rather just deal with the budget. It's a lot simpler that way, and we will have a regular meeting in 2
and
weeks.
that's
and-
gonna be
Is that
here?
here or in your office?
Here's okay.
Okay, okay. Good, and we'll plan on starting at 6 and ending at 7:30.
Right, and just,
So we're not gonna be here for 3 hours, unless we really wanna be.
yeah, let me tell you what I think
That's on the
has,
4th, isn't
June 4th.
what I think has worked well in the past is to do fire, recycling, sewer, pool. Do those 4 first, okay? Because fire is really the only one that drives a number in the general fund, all right? Because the fire budget, once that's set, the Virgin's share of that budget is in the general fund. So if you were to do fire, recycling, sewer, and pool the first night at a minimum, all right, and maybe if we can do more, that'd be fine. And then you can actually go and, the rest of your discussion is all about property taxes. The other ones don't have anything to do with property taxes.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question on protocol? And today I wanted to just email my thoughts about the smoking to everybody, and so people could have a little bit of thought about it. It would have been interesting to hear what everybody else was saying again, but can you technically email all of you and get responses so you can?
No, Mike, right, you can't.
You
No.
can email out, but the person that wants to receive the information they can't hit a reply all. Once you hit a reply all, then it becomes public knowledge.
Because we basically have a quorum that's discussing a particular
So
topic.
it's okay for Bill to send out an email and each one of you to send him back individually information, your comment. That is acceptable.
It's like a meeting. if you
I
can
understand,
follow.
but it's,
But
you
to
know,
get that information back out is,
I know.
unless Bill,
Yeah, but just speaking as a member of the public, if you start discussing things amongst yourself,
Mhm.
even via email, it's like holding a meeting with no public.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it. I
Yeah.
wasn't
And
quite
four of us
sure.
can't talk in the
Your
street.
instincts are exactly right.
We gather around, we gotta,
Yeah.
But, if you discuss things one-on-one by email, or if you run into Joe in the street and say, what do you think about the smoking thing? That's not a quorum, that's not a meeting, that's perfectly legitimate. That's the way I understand it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
as a member of the
Yeah.
press.
I think really one of the general rules, it's okay for Bill to write a meeting, send an email out that says, I wanna try to find out if we can get a quorum on Tuesday, all right? If you're just trying to schedule a meeting, you're not conducting city business, you're just trying to make sure that you got 4 people, you have a quorum there. But, if somebody has reply all and says, while we're meeting, is it okay if we talk about the such and such? Now you're holding a meeting, okay?
Yeah.
So it's really, as Andy says, if you wanted to send a note to Joe, and if you wanted to send a separate note to Ziggy, and you can do that. That's not a meeting.
I just didn't, I wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, but when you
you
start
could send
sending.
it out as a group,
Right.
but they can't hit a reply all.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden,
Exactly.
everybody's together.
See, I'll tell you, Lynn, lots of times, I can tell you, our planning commission, DRB, we're not like totally electronic, but lots of times I will send out the agenda and the supporting information, accompanying information electronically, okay? And so they're gonna get a hard copy of their agenda packet, that I'm gonna hand deliver. If Jason Farrell says reply all, you guys all ought to go over and make sure you take a look at such and such because there's something behind that building. That's a meeting, all right? And so it's really dangerous. It's best to just hone in on not really topics, but when the meeting is.
Randy used to violate that quite often.
Yeah.
Who did?
Randy,
Yeah, you gotta really be
If you
careful
put
with
yourself
that.
in a citizen's point of view, you'd want to know what people are talking about.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
have any issue with it, I just wanted to say, can you give me some feedback so I can think about this? I don't like to make decisions on the spot. So,
All right, do we have a motion?
That's why you
Randy?
make money.
motion to adjourn.
Second. Ziggy, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And Mel,
Yeah.
or the fire recycling, what was the other one you wanted to go over?